So we're going to look at the foot position in standing poses. So the angles of feet, the heel to heel stuff or the heel to arch stuff or the gap stuff. There is no one right answer for this. This is where it depends. It depends on the person. It depends on their hip socket. It depends on the intention of the pose. It depends on lots of stuff. So remember, there's no one answer to this, although lots of trainings and teachers like to give one answer. So I'm going to walk you through very briefly my logic and what I'm asking you to look for, and then you're going to play around and find the one that works best for you today, which will be different than tomorrow, perhaps. Warrior two. Right now, I have heel to heel, and we'll start with this. Heel to heel alignment. So pretty standard instruction. And I have my back foot parallel with the front of the mat, or the back of the mat. Back foot parallel with the back of the mat. It's sort of pointing straight this way. Front foot's pointing straight that way. This requires, so if I really am doing this without force, this requires that this front leg can abduct and externally rotate 90 degrees, which for most people, it cannot. If we're looking at average range of motions for people, unless, you know, I'm a ballerina, this leg is not capable because of the bones to externally rotate that much. If I force it to, it's going to come from me jutting my hips forward or doing odd things. All right. So if I have the back foot parallel to the back of the mat and the front foot pointing forward, I am requiring this leg to do something it cannot do. So the first way we can work on that is to play around with how much the back foot can turn in. So the back foot can turn a little bit in to lessen the demand on the front leg. And the way I will realize that is working is that I can get a sense of this thigh bone working its way into the hip socket, and I have the natural curves of my spine. If I'm forcing it, I'm thrusting my hips forward or back, I'm in something weird, and this leg is just sort of hanging out. It's not deep into the hip socket. So that's a way I'm going to assess if I have the back foot in an okay place. If I did heel to arch alignment, I am requiring a little bit more rotation because the leg is just, it just has to do more, has to open up more if it's heel to arch. If you're, you know, a 14-year-old boy with a very narrow pelvis and you've trained this, you know, from childhood and you've sort of you've been selected because you have the bones that'll do this, that might not be a big deal. If you started your yoga practice when you were 45 and you have a female pelvis, it might not work. So one of the problems, if we keep going narrower and narrower, we do not leave room for the hips and pelvis. So that's why it might work for you to have a gap between heels. So my right foot goes a little bit to the right, left foot goes a little bit to the left. The last thing I want you to think about, aside from all that rotational stuff, and like you have choices, is it makes a lot of sense for me, and you can stew on this for a second, if I think of the back foot in relationship to where my hips face and my chest is starting to face as sort of the Tadasana leg. Tadasana. Tadasana with a turnout. Back foot, sort of Tadasana. My hips will face the direction of the back foot and knee, and then I might twist the upper body just so I can open up. But I am starting everything in alignment this way. It'll make more sense in something like Parshvakonasana or triangle pose, but back leg Tadasana, front leg opening up. That's the spiel.